Yo, welcome in. What is up, Lowen? What is up, Salim? What is up, everyone? Y'all, everyone, start spamming that comment section. Spam those likes. We are going to do anything and everything in our power to get sent out across the FYP stream hopping today. Absolutely. We are trying to figure it out. For all my 234 beautiful friends in the chat, make sure that we are double tapping. Make sure that we are spamming that comment section. Make sure that we are sharing that live and commenting and copying that link. Everyone coming in here, y'all. We are doing everything we can, and I mean everything, to get out and across that FYP. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and hop right into the debates. If we are in those guest requests, make sure we are Christian, ladies and gentlemen. But without further ado, let's go and get Mikey boy up in here. Hi, Mike. How old are you?
I'm in my 30s.
30s, very nice. Do you think that the Christian God is real?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, why so, Mr. Mike?
Well, I mean, I've heard you run your arguments. I think there's a lot of I don't even know where to start, to be honest. You just pulled the line up, Mike. I didn't think I was going to be the first person. I think there's a lot of information in science that kind of points towards the existence of a God. Obviously, I have to believe in the Bible. If you wanted, we can run that perfection argument that you like to do. Because I think I know. I don't know. Let's take it from the perfection argument then, I guess.
Yeah, like we'll just go ahead and touch on a couple things here. So first of all, do you think there's anything more desirable than perfection?
So I actually think that perfection can't really be perfection without a purpose.
So this wasn't the question that I asked you. Is anything more desirable than perfection?
So no.
Okay, so there's nothing more desirable than perfection, right? And would it make sense for us to say that we'd want to change perfection? Like, i.e., we have a perfect pizza, right? Would it make sense for us to say that we'd want to change this pizza in any way, shape, or form?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? So then we'll just apply this to God. Well, prior to creation, when God existed alone, if you're going to assume God to be perfect, well, this would mean the state of reality is perfect as well. We'll say two things here. Nothing is going to be more desirable than this state of reality because it's perfect. Therefore, God had no reason to create because nothing could be more desirable. And then additionally, it wouldn't make any sense for us to say that we'd want to change this state of reality, right? Therefore, it wouldn't make any sense for God to create point blank, period.
Yeah, so the issue that I have with that argument then is that God is a perfect creator. So, I mean, the thing with the pizza analogy is you're talking about like an object. And so if an object is perfect, why change that object? But if you're a perfect pizza maker, you have to make pizzas. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like that demonstrates your...
Wait, would you say that God plus creation is more desirable than God existing alone?
I would.
Okay, so yeah, then God alone is not perfect, right? Because if nothing's more desirable than perfection, and God plus creation is more desirable than just God, this means God's not perfect.
No, but what I'm trying to say here is that it's the idea of perfection apart from, like, God is perfect, but then his creation that he chooses brings, I mean, the biblical term for it is it brings glory to his name. And so the whole idea behind that...
What premise are you rejecting here? I'll just go ahead and lay it out for you. I don't understand which part of the argument you're rejecting. You're saying that God plus creation is more desirable than just God. And you're saying there's nothing more desirable than perfection. Right? The logical implication of all these things being true is that God alone is not perfect because there's something more desirable than God alone. So what premise of this argument are you rejecting?
I guess I'm rejecting the whole, like, it's the whole idea that perfection exists as an object, and rather, like, perfection.
Wait, none of these premises, like, okay, so yeah, you're saying that God alone is not perfect.
I guess you could say that.
So you are indeed conceding that God alone is not perfection. Okay.
But devoid of a purpose, you don't have perfection, is what I'm saying. Like, for example, take your pizza analogy. If you say the pizza is perfect, well, what makes that pizza perfect? It's its purpose, right? If you just have a pizza sitting there that you don't eat, then that's not a perfect pizza because it's not being eaten. It doesn't have a purpose. So I guess my argument against your
Wait, this literally
analogy
doesn't
or your
matter.
premise-
Hey, sir, this literally doesn't matter, Mike. Like, you could say this, you could say whatever you want, right? You're essentially you're saying that if God doesn't create, he's not perfect. That's a reduction of your argument, because you're saying his purpose of creation is required for him to be perfect. So therefore, God's not perfect, let alone, right? God has to do things to enact perfection. So yeah, all right, you just rejected Christianity because you just said God is not perfect.
But the Bible doesn't say that God is perfect point blank.
Yes, it does. It says God is perfect in Psalms. Yes, it does.
That verse that you
Sure,
quote
shut
in
up,
Psalms,
sure,
it says that it's perfect. He's perfect in his ways.
No, it
Right.
just literally says God is perfection. God is
It
perfect.
says that God is perfect in his ways. You can pull that up.
Hey man, listen, I'll just go ahead and grant it to you. If you don't think God is perfect, bro, you're taking on an incredibly heretical view. In fact, 250 years ago, you would have been burned alive for taking on that heretical view. So I'm quite proud of you. But anyway,
you're-
we're going to
Dean.
go ahead and touch on a couple other issues.
Okay,
right?
but hold on.
You,
I can
wait,
come
you
back
can't
to-
deny anything that I just said. Yes, you are saying that God is not perfect. Like, you have to understand that that is a heretical view in accordance with Christianity, and you would have been burned at the stake for this view 200 years ago. Nothing about that statement is undeniable. What part of
I
that statement do you
accepted-
contend with?
I accepted your definition of perfect, and I don't think that is the definition of perfect. That
Wait, so you don't think that God's flawless?
I believe that God is flawless.
Okay, so then, yes, that's my definition of perfect. So therefore, you believe that God is perfect, and so now the contradiction arises again. Once again, there's nothing more desirable than perfection. You believe you believe God to be perfect, but there's something more desirable than just God, that being God plus creation. So we run you right back into the same issue. You have a logical contradiction because you think God's perfect, but you think something's more desirable than just him.
Dean, your issue is with your definition of perfection. Perfection is
No,
not-
you agreed with my definition of perfection because you applied it to your own God. I
Right, so-
defined perfection as flawlessness, and you said your God
Right.
is flawless.
Right. So what constitutes a flaw then?
Right, an undesirable attribute or trait.
Right. So what about him creating is now undesirable?
Wait, I never said creation in of itself is imperfect. I quite literally just said that creation is a contradiction because this would be God desiring something undesirable, right? And then on top
Why
of
is that
that,
undesirable?
wait, would you say that God plus creation is perfect or imperfect?
I would say that it's perfect. His design, absolutely.
Okay, so then this means that this means a couple things. So this means that, yeah, the current state of reality is perfect. So you're going to have to say all things considered slavery is perfect. All things considered children, adults being attracted to minors is perfect. All things considered, right, a child sex trafficking is perfect. Then also this would just mean that God is random, right? So essentially if God went from a state of perfection prior to creation and a state of perfection after creation, well, God would have no reason to prefer one state of perfection over another because they're identical in the relevant sense. Like, let me give you an example. If you were looking to buy a car and I was a car salesman and you came to my lot and you said you wanted to look at my Camaros, and I present to you two Camaros that are identical in the relevant sense, same color, same mileage, same everything, well, how do you select which Camaro you'd like? Well, it'd be random. And this is what we're saying about God creating. If the state of affairs before and after creation are both perfect, him creating would just merely be random.
So you're saying, but are you saying his creation in general because you're only moving from one state of perfect to another? But that creation serves a purpose. That creation is to bring glory to him.
Okay, so if he has a reason, so if creation is not random and he has a reason to create, well, this means that God plus creation is more preferable over just God due to the simple fact that he has a reason to do it, right? And then this would just reintroduce the contradiction, right? Because if you're saying God's perfect, but yet there's something more preferable than just God, well, it seems like either God's not perfect or your God doesn't exist because it's impossible for something to be more preferable or more desirable than creation.
So you're saying that without creation, God is no longer perfect because he's not fulfilling his purpose.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. You're literally not tracking. I'm saying if God plus creation is more preferable than just God, then God's not perfect because there's nothing more preferable than perfection, right? Then additionally here, if you're saying, well, both states of reality are perfect, then God creating it was random because they'd be identical.
And I can accept that. If you want to say that God creating is random, he chose something, he could have chosen something else. right? If both
Well, yeah.
states
So
are
yeah.
all
So now
things
God,
considered
now
perfect.
God's create. So yeah, we're just. So now you've just essentially right conceded a lot here. First of all, a very heretical view. I don't think Christians will accept that. Like, is there any
Of what?
Christians that? One second. That's a heretical view of Christianity to say that creation was random, right? And it's very, it's very obviously like shown in the context of Genesis 1 that wouldn't be the case given a non-heretical view of
No,
Christianity.
but
like, I
Dean,
bet
what
there's
you're
one
saying with your
second, sir.
premise
Well, I don't know why you think you could interrupt me. Like, I won't interrupt you either. Like,
Okay.
particularly, right? Is there any Christians in chat that disagree with him saying creation was random? Put a 1 if you disagree, right? Then on top of that, well, this is essentially going to be the largest critique of the naturalistic worldview, right? Like theists are going to typically say that under naturalism, creation was random. The Big Bang occurring was random. All these particles coming together to make humans and make consciousness and make rationale was random, and that makes no fucking sense. So now you're just applying a massive critique of naturalism to your own depiction of your belief in God.
No, what I'm saying is that you're saying that one state of perfection versus another state of perfection, it would be random for him to create. What I'm saying is that if God has this method of creation to bring glory to his name, there may have been multiple ways that he creates within that perfection. You're saying there's multiple states of perfection.
Does
So I'm
God
not saying
desire
that
to have glory
creation-
bring to his
Dean,
name?
you said that you weren't going to interrupt me.
Sure.
So if God had multiple ways that he could have created, I'm not saying that it's random, like he doesn't have a plan or he didn't have a purpose to the creation. There was a purpose to the creation. But if you're saying all possible universes or whatever, and he could have
Sure. Did God
chosen any one of
desire
those.
to have glory brought to his name?
Absolutely.
Okay, so are you saying God plus glory being brought to his name is more desirable than just God alone?
You're saying that both of those things are perfection.
I'm asking you a question. Is God plus glory brought to his name more preferable than God minus glory brought to his name?
I would say yes.
Okay, yeah, so you think something is more desirable or more preferable than just God, that being God plus glory brought to his name. Right, so this shows us that God alone isn't perfect because there's something more preferable than God alone.
But you can build on perfection. You can have something perfect.
No, you literally can't. You literally can't have something more desirable than perfection. That was the first thing I asked you. That was the first thing that we agreed on. There's nothing more desirable than perfection because perfection is just defined as flawlessness, with a flaw being an undesirable attribute. And then I also had you agree to this through a hypothetical of a perfect pizza. If we had a perfect pizza, it would make no sense for us to say we'd want to change that perfect pizza in any sense of the way. And also, if we were to say that there existed a better pizza than this perfect pizza, well, that would make that pizza not actually perfect. So
I
we're
guess
just applying all these same concepts that we've already agreed on to God. And you recognize the contradiction, you see the issue, so now you're just denying things that we've already agreed on, so you can attempt to hold a congruent worldview. But even if you deny those things and you say there is something more desirable than perfection, well, then what do you take perfection to be? I'll just ask you to define perfection.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that if we have a state where there's just God, and God doesn't exist with anything else, and we want to say that God is perfect, I mean, the nature of God is such that if he is a perfect creator and he wants to bring glory to his name, I'm not suggesting that God alone.
Yeah, I'm suggesting that God wanting to bring glory to his name is complete gibberish, right? I have a question. Does God lack anything?
Does he lack anything in and of himself?
Yep.
I think that's an oversimplified question.
Mike, answer my question.
Does he lack anything? I would say no.
Okay, so here's the thing. God doesn't lack anything, right? So I have a question. What color of shirt are you wearing right now?
I'm currently wearing a blue shirt.
Yeah, would it make sense for me to ask you if you currently desire to put a blue shirt on, or would that not make any sense because you already have a blue shirt on?
I mean, I could put another blue shirt on.
Can you engage in good faith, sir?
I'm just saying, just because you're not lacking something, like
Sir, Mike,
no,
I'll
no,
go
no.
ahead and ask you the question again. You're not going to pivot and run away from this.
I'm not
Introducing red
pivoting.
herrings. You're absolutely introducing red herrings. Stop.
I'm not. You're giving.
So I'll go ahead and
you're giving-
repeat my question. So you have one blue shirt on right now. Would it make any sense if I were to ask you if you desire to put one blue shirt on?
I mean, I would think that it does because I am wearing a blue shirt, and so I do have.
I
that
didn't ask
desire
you if
to
you
wear it.
desire to wear a blue shirt. I'm asking you if you desire to put a blue shirt on. Like, obviously, you're just being disingenuous, right? If you're
But-
currently wearing a blue shirt, right, it would like the question, do you desire to put a blue shirt on, doesn't make absolutely any sense because you already have a blue shirt on. The point
Right,
of
but-
this question is supposed to show that you can't desire something that you already have in full. Right? You can't desire to have something that you already have in full, right?
I mean,
and
at the
basically
same
we'd be
time-
applying this. Mike, stop being disingenuous. I'm going to tell you one last time. Like, one thing I really don't like about debating like religious people is when they're like just incredibly disingenuous. They're intentionally misrepresenting what is true and what is not true. It just makes for a very unfun time. So I'll just go ahead and give you one last chance, right? So you currently have a one blue shirt on, right? Would it make sense for me to ask you if you desire to put one blue shirt on right now, right? Or is that completely gibberish?
Okay, for the sake of this argument, I will give it to you and say no, that would not make sense. But I
It's
would
not
also
for the
like.
it's not for the sake of
No,
the
no,
argument.
because I'd
That's
like to
just
offer
true.
why it's not a rational analogy.
Yeah. Go for it. Wait. First of all, we could talk about the nature of the analogy after you just engage with the question. So, do you or do you not think that question is gibberish?
I think that you could dive into it, but based off the premises you give, yeah, I can see why you'd say it's gibberish.
No, I'm asking you if you think it's gibberish.
I'd like to give my rationale for why not, but I fear that if
Give
I
it.
say that it's not, that you're then
Give
going
the
to.
rationale for why not.
So if I have a son and I have a relationship with that son, and that relationship is awesome, and I'm like, it would not be wrong for me to say I desire a relationship with my son because you're going to continue growing that relationship. Right?
Yeah, but you're desiring something that you don't currently possess, aka future growth of the relationship. The nature of the analogy in the context of the blue shirt is to show you how it's gibberish to say that you desire something that you currently possess.
Right. Okay. So you're saying within the realm of like time scale. So I currently can't desire it because I'm currently wearing that shirt.
Yeah, we're just saying that you can't desire things that you currently possess, right? You can't desire to possess things in the future that you already currently possess. And basically,
Okay.
the nature of this analogy is to show that we wouldn't really want to change something that's all-encompassing or something in which is perfect, right? And basically, the way that this would apply to God, well, if God is flawless, if God is all-encompassing, if God doesn't lack anything, well, it'd be very gibberish to say, well, God desires something, right? But I think on the larger scale picture here, I think that we've already demonstrated, the analogy to do with perfection. If God desires something, if God plus creation, or if God plus a relationship with humans is more desirable than just God, well, then God alone is not perfect. Also, mods, you don't have to mute or ban the people like spamming shit in the chat. Like Haley, I'll go ahead and unmute you. In fact, Haley, if you want to come up, you can. But go ahead and respond.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this fact because at the end of the day, God is eternal, and so I'm trying to wrap my head around these premises that God without anything is perfect. He's perfect in his ways, but at the same time, God has a purpose, and we have a purpose.
Okay,
And I think
is
that
there anything
perfection
more
without
desirable than
purpose-
perfection? I'll just ask you one last time. Is there anything
No,
more...
I've heard this. I've heard
Okay.
this.
If
I also think-
there's nothing more desirable than perfection, then there's nothing more desirable than God existing alone. If there is something more desirable than God existing alone, this means there either is something more desirable than perfection, or God alone is not perfect. You are committed to one of these two views.
yes,
Because these two views are logically entailed by the set of premisi, right?
Okay,
So I'll
so
either
let
ask
me-
you, what particular premises do you disagree with?
So perfection is without flaw, right? We agree on that, right, Dean?
Yeah. Yeah, like we could define perfection as flawlessness.
Yeah. So flaws need to be defined as well. Then I'm just trying to work
Undesirable
this out
attributes or
logically,
traits.
right? So flaws need to be defined within a purpose.
No,
Right.
we could just
If I-
no. I don't think so. Flaw is just simply an undesirable trait.
But within the context of a purpose. So let's take your pizza.
Why?
analogy.
Why so?
If
Can you
you
define
have-
purpose? Can you define purpose?
Yes, I can. So if I have a pizza that I define as a perfect pizza.
With all due respect, that's an example. I'm looking for a definition. I understand why you'd give an example to try to like
Yeah.
portray to me what you mean when you say the word, but I don't
Okay.
really think that analogy does it for me. Like
Okay.
I'll fully admit maybe I just don't get it, but that's why I just
Okay.
asked for like a definition instead of an example.
A definition of purpose is what something has been created or designed or is being used for.
Oh wait, or are you saying that God was created or designed to serve?
No,
the
I was
purpose
trying to
of having
find
a
the right
relationship
word
with
off the
humanity?
top of my head. Purpose is it's purpose. I don't want to use the word design because you don't like that word. But if something has a purpose, it means it has a use, it has a destiny, it has a use, for lack of a better term. So, for example, if you have a hammer and you have a perfect hammer, well, what am I hammering?
That's because the hammer was designed for that function.
Right.
Right. But we wouldn't say that God was designed for any function. So if you're going to like apply a prescriptive purpose on God, well, you're just going to essentially have to concede that God has a God.
No, I understand that, but I'm just trying to work out the premises here on perfection, right? Because there is a hole somewhere in your argument.
So
And
you do
perfection
understand that.
can't-
So
but
you do
perfection
understand that.
can't. Yes, perfection can't exist without purpose. It really can't.
Wait, could God exist without purpose?
I don't think that God has a set of attributes that.
Well, I'm asking
have
you, is it
purpose.
possible for God to exist without purpose?
I don't know that anything can exist without.
Okay, so God is contingent upon purpose, right? So now we're just going into another heretical view. You're saying that God is contingent upon something else.
Unless I have a bad definition of purpose. That's what we're trying to work
I
out.
don't even. I don't even know what you're trying, like what you mean when you say purpose. I'm just simply demonstrating to you how it is the case that like God is not contingent upon whatever you mean when you say that, right? And
Well,
if you'd still define God as perfection, then no, it doesn't seem like perfection is contingent upon purpose in all cases.
What I'm saying is that the Bible outlines God as being perfect in his ways. And so,
But you see that
perfection-
you're not responding to my argument here. I have a question. Is God
Yeah.
contingent upon anything?
Contingent meaning what? Sorry.
Yeah, like subject to.
Subject to. So, sorry, just give me an example. I want to make sure I'm representing what you're saying properly.
Okay, so I have a mouse and I have a computer. When I right click on my mouse right now, it'll open a new tab on Google Chrome. So therefore, a new tab being opened on Google Chrome is contingent upon my right finger
Okay.
hitting the left. Upon my finger hitting the mouse.
Okay.
Right. So we'll see that like we could also say that like my existence was contingent upon my parents engaging in intercourse. Right.
Okay, I
My
see.
parents' existence.
So
was
I
contingent
understand.
upon-
So I would say no. God is
so
not
God is not
upon-
contingent upon anything, right? So if God is not contingent upon anything, this means that God is not contingent upon purpose. And if God is perfect, well, we'll just supplement God for perfection. We could then therefore reason that perfection is not contingent upon purpose either, right? And if perfection is not contingent upon purpose, right, then the argument would follow. So which particular premise would you reject? Or would you accept all the premise and recognize how your God is illogical?
So then I would just say that the idea of perfection then would be something that is used to help us relate to this attribute of God. It would have to be.
And that makes no sense.
How does that not? So what I'm trying to say then is that
What I mean exactly what I said. The sentence that just came out of your mouth made no sense.
okay. So let me try and explain this again. When we define God as perfect,
We're saying that God is flawless.
right, but then flaws need purpose. Like that's where it becomes difficult to define because
Okay,
when you
yeah,
say like
whatever.
what is a flaw?
Yeah, whatever. Flaws need purpose. I disagree with you. I think that that's just you muddying the waters, introducing pure gibberish.
No, Dean,
but
I'm not trying
it
to do
doesn't
that.
matter. But
here's
hey,
no-
one second, sir. Yeah, when you say flaws need purpose, I really think that's just you muddying the waters, right? That doesn't really mean anything to me. But it doesn't matter for this reason. God doesn't have them. Hey,
Oh,
so it
okay.
seems like we're not relating necessary purpose to God.
Let
And if
me-
that
let
is
me-
the case and God is perfect, well then yeah, it'd make no sense to say that anything is more desirable than just God. But you do, so therefore God's not perfect.
Okay, I want to clarify because I don't want you to think that I'm purposely muddying the waters here. Perfection is defined as something that doesn't have a flaw, correct?
Your flawlessness, and then a flaw is just defined as an undesirable trait.
Okay, so flaw is under. So if it's an undesirable trait, undesirable to whom or under what purpose? Because undesirable
In this context,
doesn't-
we'd be saying to God.
undesirable to God, but we're trying to define perfection as God.
So if you're just defining God as perfect, I just think that that's a weak cop out for this reason. Like if I play Fortnite, right, and I get like I get like a perfect game, I unalive everyone in the lobby. Did I get a God game? Or if I take a test at school,
No, sorry,
and I
Dean,
get a
that's not
perfect
what I'm trying to
score.
say.
Did I get a God score?
That's not what I'm trying to say. What
Yes,
I'm trying
it is.
to say.
You just said that perfection is defined by God, and I'm showing you how that's complete like gibberish.
No, I understand that that's what you heard, and sorry if I misspeak. I'm usually not very good with my words. But I'm not trying to say that perfect is defined as God, and therefore we can't define perfection as what you say. I agree that perfection is flawless. But when I'm trying to say flaw is an undesirable trait, you need to consider purpose. So, I mean, your Fortnite game, let's say you have a perfect Fortnite game. Well, what does that look like?
Oh, like undesirable in accordance with an end goal is essentially what you're saying.
Right, but whose end goal?
Yeah, so God, right? So we're essentially saying in accordance with like God, right? Would God deem this as undesirable? Because we're talking from the perspective of God. Like when you're talking perfect to whom? Perfect to God, right? So like what we're essentially saying here, right? If there's anything more desirable than just God exists alone, then God isn't perfect. I mean, I feel like we've already kind of ran through that argument. Like, I mean, man, if you're just not getting it, we can move on to a different argument.
We can move on to a different argument because I think it's well, I'm not going to say semantics, but I think let's move on to something else if we want to.
I just think that you're muddying the waters. A lot of Christians do this. It's okay. We'll fight through the muddied waters.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll go on to another argument here.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't think God is all good because God allows unnecessary suffering. Like particularly speaking, there's about 4 million children that starve to death each year. God can prevent this unnecessary suffering by just simply designing our biological systems to function in such a manner to where we don't die if we don't eat. But he didn't, and this causes 4 million annual deaths in the context of starving children. I think God's partially responsible for this, which I think means God did something wrong, therefore God's not all good.
So my question would be, you say that God could have designed us in a way. You're saying that, but you
I
don't
appreciate
know.
you for the subscription. I do.
you
God's all
don't-
powerful, right?
Within the bounds of logic, yes.
Yep, and it is logically possible to design our human systems to function in such a manner where we do not require food to be alive. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would disagree with that.
You'd say it's okay. So what's the contradiction? Because logical impossibility implies that there's a contradiction. So what is the
Right.
P and not P in humans being able to survive without a reliance on food? Like we could like literally just like survive on photosynthesis.
So then we wouldn't
synthesis.
be able to move.
That also is not logically entailed, right? So what is
It
the
does.
apparent contradiction? You don't know what logically. You don't know what any of this
No.
is. You don't know what logical.
The logical
possibilities.
contradiction.
I
that
answered
you.
you. Wait, don't
assuming that
don't
there's a
straw man.
reality-
Don't straw man. Give me the contradiction in humans living without being reliant upon food or not starving to death if we don't eat.
The contradiction is that, well, it's that it's not physically possible for that to happen. You can't
Physical
meet energy
possibilities don't fucking matter, right? When we're talking about logical possibilities. God could have fulfilled these energy needs through other means to where we didn't die if we didn't starve to death. Yes or no?
needs. No, he could not have.
So God's not all powerful because he cannot do something that's logically possible.
But it's not logically possible. Dan.
So then give me the contradiction in God fulfilling our energy intake needs without us relying on physical food.
From what we see across all of science, there is only 2-ish ways that we can meet energy requirements. It's from outside of us by seeking food, or it's
Do we see
through
God in
something like-
science?
Absolutely.
Where?
I believe that science is actually the study of nature which God created. I believe that we can reveal God's attributes through studying science. Absolutely.
Bro, you're trying to use science to say that God can't do something. Isn't this what atheists do?
No, what I'm saying is that we don't have. You're creating an argument out of something that might not even be possible.
Bro, yeah, but if it's not possible, you'll have to give me the contradiction. What is the contradiction in God fulfilling our energy intake means, right, without the means of physical food? It is obviously the case that God could do this. God is all-powerful, only limited by what is logically possible. And there is no contradiction, right, in God fulfilling this intake without the reliance on food, right? Like, God fulfilling our energy intake without a reliance on food isn't necessary. It's possible. Like, or God could have literally just defined the laws of nature to function in such a manner where we didn't require this energy intake. Is that possible?
Right. So what I'm saying is, even in these possibilities, there's other things that you aren't considering that would then.
Can you answer my question?
Desirable.
Is it possible? Is it possible for God to make it so we don't require an energy intake?
Okay. Let's go this way. Let's say yes, it is possible.
Okay, so yeah, what we see is there's not a contradiction. It is possible. God could do it, but he can't. So back to the main argument at hand. Mike, you are being so incredibly disingenuous. I'm so happy that I'm still able to dunk on you here because I could just reduce you down to admitting that there is no contradiction in this shit. But I am just fucking... Stop muddying the waters. Stop denying things that you know are not fucking false. But now we're back to the main point at hand. God could have designed our biological systems to function in such a manner where we didn't rely on eating food to survive, and he didn't, so this is unnecessary harm, in which I would say is at the fault of God, so God is not all good.
Okay. And then I would say that those other logical possibilities where you don't require food to survive would most likely be worse outcomes than what we currently have. You're saying that so many million children die every single year.
Yep.
Perhaps in those other realities, there are hundreds of millions of children dying every year. Or
Awesome, got it.
Children don't even exist at all.
So it's called the evidential problem of evil. So what this introduces is that it is implausible that God would have good reason to do these things, right? But there's now two responses to what you're saying now. Well, you're saying, well, God exists on an epistemic plane above us. God has access to information that we do not know, and it is probably the most preferable account of reality for these 4 million children to starve to death. So this all reduces to the end claim that you think it is all things considered good for 4 million children to starve to death. Can you say that out loud?
All things considered, at the end of the day, when God achieves his perfect plan, then yes, I do believe that where we're living is all things considered good.
So say it. So say it is fuck good. Right? This is the most desirable version of reality, right? And based off upon our last conversation about perfection, this seems like perfection. I want you to tell me that it is perfect that 4 million children starve to death annually. And also, Parker, thank you for the raid. I saw a couple people down there. Thank you so much, man.
It's an oversimplification of things.
It's not an oversimplification.
But it is
the result
because...
and or conclusion. 1 second, Mike. It is the result and or conclusion of the last 20 minutes of our conversation. And I'll explain to you how. You're saying it's the most preferable state of affairs in which these 4 million children starve to death, right? God probably has access to some amount of information that we do not have access to that would morally constitute these 4 million deaths, right? There's no more preferable version of reality, right? So this just simply means that all things considered it should occur, right? When we're talking about this priori good, or this goodness in the sense that all things considered should occur, right? You'd have to apply this to the 4 million children that starve to death annually, right? And we could apply this to so many things else across the board as well, right? Why did God allow the Holocaust? Well, under your worldview, it's because the Holocaust, all things considered, should occur. Why has God allowed any travesty throughout the context of history? Well, according to you, there's not one fact of history that should have been otherwise. So according to you, child sex trafficking should occur, the Holocaust should occur, children starving should occur, right? And then one other issue, completely apart from this point, right, is, well, if, right, we cannot trust our intuition that children starving is all things considered wrong, well, it seems as if our intuitions are therefore unreliable. And it could also be the case that God has some epistemic reasoning that we do not have access to make our mental faculties unreliable. So this just leads straight into global skepticism now. So you think that the Holocaust should occur, child sex trafficking should occur, these 4 million children should starve to death, and you can't truly know anything about the nature of reality because God could have some good reason to make your mental faculties unreliable.
So to put this into perspective, what I believe is that at the end of the day, God will have this perfect plan. And so these evil things that you're talking about, I actually had an interesting conversation with a friend the other day about the Holocaust in particular. And it's this whole idea of perhaps the Holocaust took place to show and demonstrate to people just how depraved people are without the presence of God.
Yeah, you're just
And
giving
so-
the rationale for why it should occur. I don't really care about that. I just care
not
about
that
the
it
conclusion.
should
I think it
occur, but that it had to occur in the sense that without that occurring, there may have been many worse Holocausts, and we don't know.
Yeah, you're saying all things considered, it should occur because the outcome would be worse if it wasn't the case. Yeah, and then if you're saying it has to occur, brother, you're making it look even worse. So you actually didn't contend a single word I just said. You just gave your rationale as to why you think what I just said was true. I don't
Right.
care about the rationale in which you just gave. I just care about you holding those things true. So go ahead and tell me that you don't think there's one fact of history that you think should have been otherwise.
I don't like the word should, but I don't think there's one fact of history that has not
Wait,
held
really? You don't like the word
purpose.
should? You don't like the wait? Do you think that P3 shouldn't occur?
Absolutely.
Do you think Jesus would agree with you?
I think so.
Okay. And when we say should and shouldn't, wait, let me rephrase myself. Do you think all things considered, P3 shouldn't occur?
All things considered, no, I don't. I again with
Okay.
should, I would say
Do you think that Jesus would agree with you? Do you think that Jesus would agree with you when you say all things considered, P3 should not occur?
of course.
Okay, so if Jesus thinks that all things considered, P3 should not occur, right? Well, then there is no bigger picture here. There is no greater plan. There is no morally sufficient reason for God to allow it. Just simply speaking, God shouldn't allow it, right? Because we'd expect an all-good God, right, to base his decision-making off of what is good, right? An all-good God would allow things that all things considered should occur and would not allow things that all things considered should not occur. Right, and I'll tell you why. Right, like let's just take an all greedy God for instance. If we were to see an all greedy God, would we expect this all greedy God to base their decision making on what would increase and decrease greed?
An all greedy God should do things that increase greed. Yes.
Okay, so then an all good God should allow things that increase good, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So then, therefore, if you're saying that Jesus would say, all things considered, P3 shouldn't occur, this means that all things considered, P3 does not increase good. So therefore, God should not allow P3 to exist, but P3 does exist. Therefore, if there is a God, they are not all good.
Or there's other things to consider beside the goodness of what's happening.
Well, then, if there's other things to consider, like the goodness is not their primary function in their decision making, well, then the God isn't all good because, like, they'd have some other factor in which they'd take into account in their decision making.
Well, of course, there's love, there's goodness, there's relationship.
Yeah,
Right?
love and relationships are just an extension of goodness. Like, do you think that God would be all loving if he was all evil?
Of course not.
Okay, so yeah, we see this all-loving attribute is just an extension of his all-goodness. So that
Right.
would be taken into account on what is all things considered good. So this would just factor right back into my picture. If P3 is all things considered bad, then it is impossible for your God to allow it, given his nature of being all good. But because it exists, right, this either means that God did allow it, so he's not all good, or the God doesn't even exist in the first place.
But in the context of relationship, you have to allow people to make decisions. And so if God is all good, he also has to allow people to not choose him.
Okay, so then this would just be a primary concern, right, and factoring in on if all things considered should or shouldn't occur, is people's free will. So therefore, Jesus would say, P3, all things considered should occur.
If you're going to put it that way, I mean, I guess you would have to say that because all things considered includes people's abilities to choose what they want to do. And yeah, I would agree that God does not want to force people into a slavery of life.
Damn. So you think God should allow P3? An all good God would allow P3, an all good God would allow the Holocaust.
No, I think an all good and all loving God would allow people
Wait,
to
would you
choose
disagree with
what
that?
they want.
Wait, do you agree or disagree with the statement? An all good God would allow the Holocaust to occur.
With the second premise of an all good God.
Mike,
would allow
I'm
people
asking
to
you if you
not
agree
choose.
or you disagree.
No,
Would
no,
an all
you
good
make
God allow
premises.
the Holocaust to occur.
Dean, you make premises, and so I'm making a premise on that. The first premise, an all good God would allow.
You're just explaining your rationale and how you got to your conclusion. Would an all good God allow the Holocaust to occur?
Given that free will is required, then yes.
Okay, so go ahead and say it out loud. The Holocaust should occur.
The Holocaust has to be allowed to occur because
No, go ahead and say it out loud. The Holocaust should occur.
The Holocaust should occur given free will and people's ability to not choose God.
And why should child starvation occur? Because making it so we didn't have to eat food to survive would not impede upon our free will.
No, I didn't say anything about free will with that. I'm talking about logical possibilities.
And why should 4 million children starve to death a year?
I don't think that 4 million children should. I think that it's better than whatever
if it is the
alternative
case,
was more than that or worse.
Well, then you think they should, right? If you're saying the better of two alternatives is what should occur. Like, let me give you an example, right? Here are my two options. I get a vaccination for COVID and don't die when I get it, right? Or I don't get a vaccination from COVID and I do die when I get it, right? But when I get that vaccination for COVID, it's going to sting a little when it goes into my arm, right?
Yeah.
So we would say that you should get that vaccination even though you shouldn't get hurt, right?
Yep.
Right. So all things considered, you should get the vaccination even if it causes a little bit of pain because, well, that pain isn't really not necessary. All right. It is necessary for,
or you could lock
the greater
yourself in
good.
your house.
So here's the thing that I'm saying. I understand you're saying that like it is bad for kids to starve to death, right?
Yeah.
But all things considered, you think they should.
All things considered, I think that, yeah.
So go ahead and say it out loud. You think these 4 million children should starve to death?
All things considered, I do think that should be allowed to happen.
Not that it should be allowed, but it should occur.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason
That's all I got. That's all I got for you, Mike. That's all I got for you. That's a conclusion I was chasing. I feel like I did my part here, right? I made my argument, made my case, and you fucking met me at the finish line. My case is closed.
Okay. I mean, at the same time, though, you haven't proven to me that the Christian God is fake, and I think I'm giving you good arguments. Like, you're giving me these
I've literally just had, I mean, I did, right? We're talking about the perfection argument. You can follow it, whatever. Then at that point, I just simply got you to admit that, the Holocaust and child starvation should occur. It's completely absurd.
What you got me to admit, Dean, is that there is free will.
No.
And so what shouldn't occur is slavery to a God.
Hey, bud, listen. God could have designed our biological systems to function in such a manner where we didn't starve to death and we didn't eat, right? And this would this wouldn't impede upon our free will. But I don't even think that free will concerns these other actions at all. Like, for instance, does God have free will?
God would have free will, yes.
Okay, can God do evil?
God, if he, the definition of evil is that which is against God, so I would say no.
Okay, so you could have free will and not sin. Does free will exist in heaven?
Yes.
Okay, do people sin in heaven?
No, they don't.
So you can have free will and not sin.
You could sin in heaven. I mean, Lucifer sinned in heaven, but
he's an angel. Typically speaking, I don't think it's upheld that like humans.
No, you're right.
Heaven.
You're right.
So you could have free will and not sin.
You could, hypothetically.
So yeah, so God could have just made us have free will and not sin, right, to account for all these things that should not occur. I mean, this would be expected if God was all good.
To give us free will and not sin.
I mean, yeah, you just said that God has free will, but he can't sin, right? People in heaven have free will, but they can't sin. So we could have...
No, I didn't say they can't sin. I said they don't. They absolutely could.
People could sin in heaven?
They could, yes. But when you're in the presence and the full glory of God, then you don't.
I don't buy that. I actually don't even think you think that. Has anyone ever sinned in heaven besides Lucifer?
Yes. He took a third of the angels with him.
Yeah. Has anyone ever sinned in heaven besides the angels?
Well, we don't have documentation of what happens in heaven.
You said heaven's perfect, heaven's all good, sin does not occur in heaven. This is one of the most basic doctrines of the Christian faith.
Yes.
So no one has ever sinned in heaven.
Okay.
Right? So if people could sin in heaven, they most likely speaking would have already. I mean, it only took Adam and Eve, what?
Well,
days?
if you're asking me, who knows? We have no idea how long they survived before they sinned.
Yeah. Will a human ever sin in heaven, Mike?
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know.
I think you could. In accordance with your scripture that heaven's perfect, no one will ever sin, because if someone did sin in heaven, then heaven would not be perfect. After all, it is the introduction into sin on the earth that made our state of affairs imperfect.
Yep. No, you're right.
All right. So no one will ever sin in heaven. So people have free will, and they don't sin. God could have given us free will without the ability to sin.
But not the ability to sin, that's limiting free will.
Wait, people don't sin in heaven, and they don't have their free will limited. That's a non sequitur.
But I said they could.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter. God could have made us have free will and not sin without limiting our free will.
It's still a limitation, Dean.
Oh, wait, okay, so the people in heaven, do they have their free will limited?
No, they don't.
Okay, so therefore it's not a limitation.
What's not a limitation?
They can't sin, and they have free will, and their free will is not limited. That is what occurs in heaven.
Yes.
Right? So this all could have occurred on earth as well. God could have given us free will and made it so we can't sin, and our free will would not have been limited.
And our free will is not limited, and we don't sin while we're here on earth. But that doesn't happen.
Yeah, which shows that either your God doesn't exist or your God's not all good. Right? Because of our prior conversations about the Holocaust, right, and about slavery and child sex trafficking, I mean, ultimately you said those things should occur because God wants to uphold our free will. But it seems like God could have done both of these things at the same time. God could have made it so we had free will and didn't sin, so the Holocaust didn't occur. This would have reduced
the thing is, Dean,
suffering.
The thing is, Dean, we exist in such a state that we do. We do sin.
Right, which shows you that the God's not all good, or the God doesn't exist. Like, here's my honest take. Like right now, you are still trying to find a way to rationalize the state of reality in coherence with how you understand your God to be, right? And you're failing to come up with a reason, but I don't blame you. But this is where I ask you to take a step back and look at it where I'm looking at it from, right? Mm-hmm. I recognize the issue with the Holocaust being allowed by God, and the statement that the Holocaust should occur, right? Meanwhile, this God is all good? That doesn't make sense. Well, then that's where you appeal to free will. God takes our free will into account. This is why the Holocaust should occur, because we shouldn't be slaves to God. But I brought up a perfect exception to this. It seems like God taking our free will into account as to why the Holocaust should be allowed is a non sequitur, because people in heaven have free will, and people in heaven can't sin. So God could have done the same about us. So it's obviously not the case that God allowed the Holocaust to occur because of free will, because God could have not allowed the Holocaust to occur while we would still truly have free will. So that's not the reason. So there either isn't a reason, and your God's not all good, or your God doesn't exist, right? And I find that to be the most probable scenario here.
See, the issue is surrounding all of this. We need to talk about the glory of God and what brings him the most glory. What brings him the most fame? What brings him the most honor? And if everything is good and everything is happy, then what alternative is there? And so I'm thinking of a world, and maybe heaven was this world before, where Lucifer and the angels were worshiping God. And at some point, Lucifer decided, this is not for me. I could do better, because there was no evil. And Lucifer was an angel, and angels obviously are not humans. But then he was cast out of heaven. And so when you're saying that there's this we could have lived with free will and not sinning, that is essentially the state of affairs of heaven with the angels and Lucifer that existed there. And that
it's just a state of affairs, with the humans. There's a lot of like doctrines to describe like why like the angels fell. A lot of people just say that like the angels don't truly have free will. A lot of people say that he didn't truly fall in heaven. There's like a lot of explanations there. But we're just talking about humans here. We're not going to be talking about angels. And you are
I understand that,
but can't sin in heaven.
What I'm saying is the ultimate goal is not for us to be happy. That's not the ultimate goal of Christianity. It
That's
never
true.
has been.
That's true. That
And-
is not the main doctrine of Christianity.
And the ultimate goal is what brings glory to God. And to have a true vision of what things are like without God.
So, in other words, the Holocaust and child sex trafficking should occur so God has more glory brought to him.
Yeah, we've been over that, Dean.
So the Holocaust is good because God gets more glory.
I never said
Child
the
sex
Holocaust
trafficking
is
is it's all things considered good. That's what should occur means. If something should occur, it's good. If something shouldn't occur, it's bad. So all
Yes,
things
but at
considered,
the
the
same
Holocaust is
time-
good. At all
but at
things
the same
considered, the
time,
Holocaust is
Dean-
good because it gives God more glory.
At the same time, Dean, we can't sit here as humans and say, yes, these things are good. And I understand when you say
We actually
all things
can because it's
considered.
logically entailed. We
Right.
can about this. We can
Right.
on this topic because it is necessary.
Right. So
If
when you
God's
say all
good,
things
you are
considered,
committed to this view.
yeah. So when you say all things considered, I can agree with that. My fear is that people listening and people watching won't necessarily know what all things considered actually means. And I've
I
want you not
think
to
we all know what this means, and I think we all understand how crazy it is. Under your worldview,
But see, then
the
that's what you're
Holocaust
saying.
is
Why
good
is
because
that
it gives
crazy?
God more glory.
So why is that crazy though? What's the alternative?
Repeat after me and see if you still have that question. The Holocaust is good because it gives God more glory. Say it out
No,
loud.
but see, that's okay. I see how
I
that
need
seems crazy,
you
but
to
that's
say it
not.
out. See how that's a little crazy?
Because the all things considered part is getting lost.
No, not at all. When I say good, I'm referring in the sense of all things considered what should occur.
Right, but you're saying it like the
I mean, I actually don't even. I'd
bad.
actually deny that other senses of good and evil actually even exist. It's like it's not evil if I get a corona vaccination that causes me a little bit of pain. That little bit of pain was not evil, right?
Right.
Because all things considered, it was good for me, right?
Right.
And this is what I'm saying, right? Under your framework, nothing is evil. Literally, nothing is evil. Right? Because it's all things considered good. Another example is, well, let's just imagine some evil salt. The salt is very evil. But I put this evil salt into a bowl of pasta, and oh my God, it makes the pasta taste so much better. Well, now that salt doesn't seem so evil because all things considered, it was good.
Right.
So it seems like under your worldview, nothing is truly evil.
Of course it is, Dean. I'm not saying that at all. Right?
I
There's a
think
verse-
you
the
are. Can
Bible
you
talks
wait?
about-
I just gave you a whole argument about how nothing is truly evil because it's all things considered good. Can you please tell me how I'm wrong?
So the Bible talks about how God works all things together for his good. It doesn't mean that all things are good. He works all things together for his good. So there has to be evil. There has to be a contradiction to God so that glory can be brought to God. It doesn't mean that that evil is good. It means that the evil stands in
Actually, yes, it does. It means
to
that the
good.
evil is all things considered good. It does. It absolutely does. That's why you would say the Holocaust is evil, but all things considered good. That is literally what it means, and you've already conceded on that.
But I'm not saying that the Holocaust was in and of itself good. I'm saying that the Holocaust
You are saying
in
if
and of
you went
itself
back in time,
is evil.
you wouldn't unalive baby Hitler because the Holocaust should occur.
I mean, I feel like I would, and I'd face whatever consequences that is.
Yeah, God would punish you for unaliving baby Hitler.
Great, let him.
God
I
would
mean,
punish you for stopping the Holocaust. How the fuck
he's
does
got
that
grace.
sound?
He's got
God
grace.
would punish you for
I don't think he
stopping
would.
the Holocaust.
No, I don't think he would. Because
No,
we
because you did something bad.
I didn't, though.
Yes,
I
you would
stopped
you would be
bad.
doing something bad by stopping the Holocaust because you said all things considered the Holocaust should occur.
See, but here's where the all things considered part falls apart. Because if I go back in time, now we have another thing to consider. And if I could stop that, I would.
Well, that's just
Right.
paradoxical. We could say that this would be considered in the first place.
Well, time travel is paradoxical.
Yeah, it is. It introduces a paradox into the equation, but just to negate these paradoxes, we just be making this assessment that it is all things considered truly good. So, yeah.
So
I mean,
what
I mean-
what I'm saying with
there's
this all
nothing.
things
There's nothing really like nowhere else to go. You think those children should have starved to death? You think the Holocaust should occur? You think that child sex trafficking should occur? Chat. How many of y'all agree with him? I mean, let's get a 1 if
No.
you disagree, a 2 if you
Dean.
agree that all things considered, these things should have occurred.
You're misrepresenting.
I'm not being
the
No, I'm not. You did
You
say
really
all things
are.
considered, these things. You did say all things
No.
considered, these things should
Because
occur.
those things in and of themselves are pure evil.
Hey, all things considered, should the Holocaust have happened?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so then God shouldn't have allowed it because all things considered, it shouldn't have occurred.
Okay. Here's the thing. All
No,
things considered.
no.
No. Okay, step back. Look at the big picture of everything.
Yeah, when you
God will
step
get
back
his
and you look at the big picture of everything, you
so
think
here's
all
what you
things
can't do,
considered, it
Dean.
should occur.
Dean, here's what you can't do. You can't look at a big picture of God has to allow evil, therefore these evil things are good. That doesn't make sense.
Wait, why did God allow the Holocaust, sir?
He allowed the Holocaust because he allows people to not choose him.
We've
He allows
already went
people
over
to
this.
step
You can
away.
have free will and not sin. It exists in heaven, sir.
can't,
You're
Dean.
Yes. Okay. Well, then, did you lie earlier when you said that the people in heaven have free will and they don't sin? Did you lie?
Right, but they've had. What I'm trying to get at is if you don't have that evil, then you don't have that contrast. So the reason that people live in heaven without sin is because they've experienced that evil. They've
Okay, do aborted
experienced
fetuses
that.
go to heaven?
Probably. I don't know if aborted fetuses have souls. We don't know
Probably.
for sure. but
Fucking
probably.
perfect. Aborted fetuses go to heaven. They didn't
Yeah.
experience the sin and evilness on earth, and
Dean,
they
of
don't
course
sin.
they do. That's what Judgment Day is. All of life that ever existed will sit and take an account of everything that
Okay,
happened on
can you
Earth.
please tell me how a fetus that was aborted before it started developing a brain experienced sin?
We're talking about souls at that point. Talking about heaven, you have to talk about souls. You have to be willing to talk about souls, right?
Wait, so fetuses can sin?
That's not what I'm saying. Okay, if
Actually,
we're going
I
to
think-
assume,
I think you
so
do.
I don't know. So I don't know if fetuses have souls or not. I don't know at what point a soul is endowed to.
At the moment of conception, unless you're fucking pro-choice. I mean, hey, honestly, if you want to say...
it is definitely not the moment of conception.
Wait, are you pro-choice?
Guarantee that. I don't believe that life begins at conception because you can literally have a blastocyst that divides a number of times. That's how identical twins happen.
Wait,
And
are
so
you
what?
are you pro-choice?
Absolutely. Well, to an extent.
Honestly, I don't really want to give you much pushback on this point because I do unequivocally think I'm right and I think you're wrong and I do think I'm winning the debate, but I think it would be socially better for you to maintain your given position, even if it's logically flawed, because it advocates for more women to have access to healthcare. So I actually don't mind that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know my full point of view, I can give it to you. I believe that up until implantation, you have whatever decisions you need to make. At the same time, I believe it's a more complex issue than it needs to be, and I don't think we need to ban abortions because I think that women need to have the decisions to make the decisions to make. Instead, I think we need to have more education surrounding what abortion actually is and how to limit abortions. And at such point that we don't,
Evan,
I
thank you
think
for
we
the
need to make abortion
$6.66 on
unnecessary.
Venmo.
That's what we need. We need to make abortion unnecessary, not illegal.
That's
I think we need
actually
to get-
my position. That is literally
Yeah.
what I think. That is
because there isn't, and this is why I don't get on and have the abortion debate very often because I have a
no,
weird
it's
point of view.
a good
But
stance. That's a
At the end of the day, no woman wants to get an abortion. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, "Hey, you know what I want to do today?" Like an abortion comes from an unfortunate situation to begin with.
Wow,
so
and
we
you're a
need to-
Christian saying this?
Why not? That's exactly what Christians should believe.
Wow.
Like it breaks my heart when people
Very
say
respectable.
that people should be like forced to have babies just to have like it makes no sense. They're gonna grow up
Damn.
in terrible homes, they're gonna have terrible futures. Like the whole all things considered, Dean, that you talk about, all things considered needs to be a part of that abortion debate. And so I hate abortion. I wish it didn't happen, but I don't think that it's making life better by forcing them to
Damn,
not
what a
happen.
fucking solid damn, bro. I've never heard someone more nuanced and clear as to why they are pro-choice. I'm actually telling you.
Thank you.
I have a lot of friends. I talk to a lot of people. I think that was fucking hell. Very rare Christian W.
Thanks, Dean. All that to say, though, I don't know when souls go to heaven. But in any case, the souls that do go to heaven, they don't just
They get the sunglasses,
The
Rachel.
Christian view right now is there aren't people sitting up in heaven looking down on us and saying, "Oh, hello, look at all the people down on earth. They have their harps in the clouds." That's not a Christian view. What's happening is that people who have died are waiting for the final judgment day. And I don't know how time works in that. That's not important. But every single soul that is in heaven will have this judgment day where they basically, all of humanity is judged from beginning to end. And the sins of all humanity will be laid out before everybody. And so I believe that the reason why the people in heaven don't sin is because they see the full extent of what sin leads to across all of humanity. And so it's not that they can't sin, it's that they choose not to because they finally see the full extent of what that actually means.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just hold the position that this is very improbable. I
can't argue improbability. I really can't.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I'll say, that is logically possible.
I'm just saying that's the way it's described in the Bible.
I'm just saying that it's much more likely, right, that this is not true than it is true. But given the fact that I operate based upon what is most likely to occur, I feel very justified in assuming the position that that is not true.
And you can, but we're talking about theology. And so when we're talking about what's most likely to occur when you ascribe to a theology, a religion, then you have to take what that holy book is saying seriously. And so when the Bible
I'd say there's a little bit of like
that,
exegesis there. I feel like that was an interpretation. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't really have any more things to really go over with you here. But yeah, I mean, I think that you should probably reconsider the position that all things considered the Holocaust should occur for God's glory. Maybe look into, a couple of those arguments. You seem smart. I bet you will. And particularly, I'd say one thing, look into the logical problem of evil. There's a lot of interpretations around it that are pretty shit. That's why a lot of philosophers and theologians think it's terrible. But however, there's many interpretations that are quite compelling. I essentially hold to the view that if God was all good, there would not exist evil, as well as there would not exist the potentiality for evil. But, I'd just say look into those things. I'm going to move on to the next guest here, but I appreciate you for your time, man.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's more that I appreciate you letting me talk out my thoughts. This is how I learn, and I love coming on. Feel like a lot of times people avoid me, so I appreciate that you've talked to me. It helps me to know where to go next and to know what I need to look into. So, I mean, I still think you misconstrued some of the things that I said.
Oh, you're that. Have we talked before?
We have talked about abortion, I believe, once before. I talked with Parker for a while, and I'm pretty sure he actively avoids me.
Wait, didn't we have a debate and you are pro-life?
I'm not, like, I'm exactly what I explained to you. We did have a debate about abortion where I was talking about blastocysts and implantation and when life begins, but I don't believe that you should make things illegal. Like, I do believe that abortion after implantation is murdering a child. I just don't think that there's better alternatives.
Okay. Well, yeah. Anyways, man, I appreciate you for the conversation, dude. It was a good one.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. See you, Mike.
Bye.
Ah, damn, that dude was pretty smart. I mean, like, essentially, like, I'll go ahead and say this, like, just before we move on to the next guest here, like, he held his worldview concurrent. So, like, the logical problem of evil that I was trying to give to him to show a contradiction, right, it did not apply to him because he assumed that everything is all things considered good. And that's essentially, like, what you have to do. Like, the view that you have to take as a Christian, if you think your God is all good, is there's nothing about history that should have been otherwise. That's an absurd view, but an absurdity does not like poise like a logical contradiction. So we're gonna move on to our next guest here. Ryan Beard's been chilling in here for a while. Let's go ahead and bring him up. Hey Ryan, are you a Christian? Do you think that the Christian God is real?
We've like talked about this. I have like kind of a weird version of Christianity that I believe in, but I was just I wanted to talk through the problem of perfection because I've been hearing you and Parker talk through that a lot, and I feel like I disagree with one of the premises that you talk about a lot in that argument.
Go for it.
So you've said like many times that perfection is the most preferable state, right?
Yep.
I don't know if I agree with that.
If we had a perfect pizza, would there be a better pizza than this perfect pizza?
There wouldn't be a better pizza, but I don't know if better always means more preferable. So for like an example I would give of that is like, sometimes I like chat with these like AI bots or whatever. And you can like set how like perfect the responses you get from the AI is. But if you set the responses to like too perfect, it actually gets like more boring to talk to them. And sometimes you want to set the responses to like less perfect because it makes them seem more human at that point. That would be an example where I would say like less perfect is actually more preferable. Or another example I would give is like, you know, when you first buy something, it's in its like most perfect state, but sometimes people might prefer it in like a more broken into state. Like if you like get a chair or something and then you sit in it for a while, it gets more broken into. And so then someone would prefer it less perfect. So
Yeah,
I
this
think
is just an equivocation of terms. You know, because like when you say that, like, you know, when you first buy a product and it's in its most perfect stage, but then someone would desire it in a more broken down, less perfect stage, right? So therefore there is sometimes some things that are more desirable than perfection. Well, you're just making an equivocation on your terms, because if it's not the most desired stage when you get it out of the box, then it's not perfect to you. And I think that this could also be said about, say, you talking to a chatbot. When its response setting is on the highest level of perfection, it gets boring, sounds like an AI. Well, then that's not perfect to you. I'll go ahead and describe this to you in another way. Would you say that, so you're in your room, right? And you have a thermostat in your room, and you want to set it to the perfect temperature. Would the perfect temperature be the most desired or most preferential temperature?
Well, yeah, I would say that what is desirable is just totally subjective. And so then I would say that, but I think that like for me, the definition of perfect.
It is desirable. Sorry, it is subjective. But there's one prescription of perfection that is not subjective. And that prescription of perfection that is not subjective is the prescription of perfection onto the Christian God. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you believe in, as long as you believe that Christianity is true, God is perfect. Nothing can be said to change this fact. This fact has always been this way and it always will, independent upon any interest, desires, or attitudes. This is a sense of perfection that is objective. And this is where the problem comes in. Because if God were to desire a state of affairs that were other than just God existing alone, well, this means that there's something more desirable than the sense of perfection, right? And this means either, according to God, he's not actually perfect, or creation was random, or he doesn't exist. So, I mean, I guess you could say in God's eyes he's not perfect, but that's just a concession, because then we'll just wrap in the idea that God's all-knowing, and if God's eyes God's not all perfect and God's all-knowing, well, then it's true that God's not perfect. So it just reduces down to the same conclusion.
So, but what it feels like within your definition of perfection means most desirable. Would you say that
perfection can be defined as flawlessness, with a flaw defined as an undesirable trait?
See, but I don't. Yeah, I think I don't agree with that definition of perfection. I think.
Can you define perfection?
Yeah, it would be flawlessness.
So that is the definition of perfection that I just gave to you.
Yeah, but I don't think flaws are inherently undesirable. Like, for example, like you could say that someone like desires skin that's like not like flawless. You know, like freckles are sun damage technically. Like that's not flawless skin, but someone could still desire freckles because
that's just all things considered, not a flaw. Like this is just semantics.
What do you mean all considered not a flaw?
Yeah, like all things considered, that freckle wouldn't be a flaw because it's not undesirable.
I feel like it's
like, Ryan, what's a flaw in your life? What's something about your life that you think is flawed?
Oh, are freckles not sun damage? Maybe I'm wrong about that. What's something that I consider a flaw in my life? I I guess probably the amount of sleep I get. I'd like to have more sleep, but then that comes.
Wait, you just said it yourself. You think it's a flaw because you don't desire it.
Yeah.
So you do agree with my definition. So yeah, then we just wrap this back into the context of the issue with perfection in the context of God, right? If God would desire another state of affairs over the state of affairs in which he exists alone, this means that he thinks the state of affairs in which he exists alone is flawed or imperfect, right? So therefore God is flawed or God is imperfect, right? We could also say a couple other things, but I think that's the only point that you're contending to. But the ultimate conclusion of this argumentation is just God's imperfect.
So I obviously agree with you that usually desire maps onto perfection, and that usually we desire more perfect things, and that flaws usually do map onto things that are undesirable.
Give me an example of perfection into your life that is not the most desired state of affairs.
I would say, let me see. I'm trying to think of an example in my own life.
It just doesn't exist, brother. That's just how we define those terms, right? Like, if it is the most desirable state of affairs, it is perfect to you.
Perfect to me. No, I mean, like the example of like I said with like furniture. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is becoming just semantic because
It is. It's perfect to you. That is perfection to you, right?
like, or I could give the example of like, you know, someone could make the most perfectly like rational decisions of like to maximize their own safety, for example, but that might not be the most desirable like way to live your life. Like,
In all things considered, it is. If they desire to live their life in that fashion, it is all things considered the most desirable state of affairs. You can't desire to do something undesirable.
can't desire to do something undesirable.
It's a contradiction. Yeah, you can't desire to do something you don't desire.
I mean, you could desire to do something that's like illogical, or desire to do something that is like not the best thing to do from like a moral or logical standpoint.
Yeah, from some other standpoint, but you can't desire to do something that you don't desire, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think we're just operating off of two different like definitions of perfection. I mean, if your definition of perfection is just what is the most desirable, then yeah, that would logically make sense. But I was thinking of perfection more as like flawless, whereas flaw is
Flawlessness is the most desirable.
But then that goes back to like the example of the AI bot. Like I would prefer a more
According
flawed-
to you, right? That is like fucking perfect. Like
But
like
I
for
don't
instance,
think it's perfect. I think I'm choosing the imperfect thing.
No, you're not. Like, according to you, right, the highest level of perfection is prescribed by the developers and not actually perfect. Like, let me think if I could give you like a better example. Let's say that like I'm taking a test in school, right? And the perfect score on this test is 100, right? But for whatever reason, I want to get a 99, right? Maybe all year long, I have gotten 99% on every test that I've taken, and I want to keep that pattern going because it would give me some type of fulfillment. I don't want a 100, I want a 99. So I get that 99. That was a perfect score in coordination with my desires. If I got a 100, that would be an imperfect score in coordination with my desires. So like perfection in accordance with you and your desires just implies whatever the most desirable outcome is. I'm literally like, I don't know why you don't accept this. I don't know how you don't see this, but I'm willing to talk to you about it, I guess.
So like most people would define 100 as the perfect score on that. But yeah, I mean, from your own subjective perspective, if you want to not get what everyone would consider the perfect score and you consider 99 to be the perfect score, then you could have your own subjective idea of perfection in that state. Yeah.
Yeah, the only like idealistic objective prescription of perfection we have is on the Christian God, right? So this means in accordance with the God and what he desired something rather than himself. And therefore, this God is not the most desired state of affairs, right? So therefore, this God's not perfect.
You don't think that someone, like if there's like, say you have like, go to
Like,
the
you
pizza.
Like, you understand
Like-
that this is all being like computed from what God desires. Like, perfection
Yeah.
is always more desirable than imperfection. Would you contend to that?
If you're, yeah, I mean, if you're just going from God's subjective preferences, then yeah.
Perfection is always more desirable than imperfection. There's no case in which that is false.
I mean, I think that 100 is the perfect score. If there's 100, like if you can get out of 100 on a test, then 100 would be the perfect score, not 99. But you can have
Bro,
your own.
and conducive with your end goals, and you think, and conducive with what your goals are. But perfection is just defined by what our goals are, right? And God's goal was to create, so perfection to God is creation, not Himself, right?
But this
Because
it just doesn't
something more
logically,
desirable than a state of affairs in which God exists alone, which is God plus creation.
but this just doesn't logically make sense to me, because like some days
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. It's supposed to not logically make sense. It's supposed to be complete gibberish. It's supposed to be illogical. And this is exactly what is entailed by the existence of the Christian God.
Well, but like with the example with the AI, like some days I do want to talk to it on a more like perfect setting if I want it to like be more logical. So you're just saying that every time, no matter what state of perfection I set it to, it's still perfect, even if I set the perfectness to a higher
Thank you for the
level,
handouts.
it's still
Yeah,
always
it's perfect to you. Yeah. What do you like on your pizza, sir?
like cheese, and I usually get like shrimp pizzas.
Yeah. So would you say a perfect pizza to you is a shrimp pizza?
Not necessarily. Well,
Okay. What's a perfect pizza to you, sir?
what's a perfect pizza? I don't. I guess the idea of the perfect pizza would be like the world's greatest chef making like the greatest pizza that's ever been made. But I wouldn't.
And what would this pizza? What would be on this pizza, sir?
I don't know necessarily. I mean, yeah, it would be completely
just-
subjective.
Could you just follow me here? Like, I'm trying to give you an argument, and now you're just saying you don't know. I'm just asking what you really like on your pizza. Like, you
Yeah.
said shrimp. Like, a perfect pizza to you may be a shrimp pizza, right?
But I don't know if I would call that like a perfect pizza. Like it's a pizza that I enjoy, but I wouldn't necessarily say like the pizzas that I enjoy are like the perfect ones. Like the
Oh,
perfect
yeah,
one I would
of
think would
course.
be like the greatest restaurant in the world.
Yeah, maybe there's a pizza that you can't even conceive of that you would like more than shrimp pizza, but you were just thinking way too fucking hard about it. We're just gonna make. I understand where you're coming from, right? Theoretically, there's a pizza that you are not familiar with that you cannot conceive of that would be better than a shrimp pizza. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But for all intensive purposes, so I can make a point here, we're just gonna say, right, in this debate, that this perfect pizza to use a shrimp pizza, right? Is that fair? Just so I could make a point?
I mean, yeah, to make the point.
Awesome. If I ate a shrimp pizza, it'd fucking kill me. I'm allergic to shellfish, right?
Uh-huh.
That is not a perfect pizza to me. A perfect pizza to me is a cheese pizza. I love cheese pizza. So we see how perfection can mean different things here. It's all dependent upon what we desire and if there's something more desirable, right? And this goes to show what we mean when we say perfection. It doesn't make any sense to say that we want to change perfection, right? Because if those perfect chefs made you the perfect pizza from the best restaurant in the world, you wouldn't want to fucking change that shit. You'd eat it up, right? And this is what we're going to say about your God. If your God is perfect, well, it wouldn't make any sense for your God to desire desire to change the state of affairs, because God exists in a perfect state of affairs. It wouldn't make any sense for him to want to change those. Very similar to how you wouldn't want to change that perfect pizza made by those perfect chefs. And when you're introducing these ideas, well, perfection is me, is imperfection to you, and maybe the way that this like coder that made this AI bot describes perfection is not perfection to me because I desire something else more. It's all irrelevant because we're all talking about God and his preferences and his desires. It is impossible. It is a contradiction for God to think that he is perfect while simultaneously desiring something other than just God.
So basically, the argument you're making is like not necessarily the most perfect overall, but like in any given moment, any choice that you make is going to be the thing that you think is the most perfect for you in that moment. Like, for example, like there could be this fancy fine dining restaurant that I think is like the greatest pizza ever. But then on another day, I might think, actually, I don't really want that right now. I want just a cheap pizza.
How else would perfection be defined, sir? This is the only way to define perfection. There's no other way to define it. This is just what perfection is.
You define perfection on like a quality scale, which the quality scale would be your own subjective definition of quality.
Yeah, of course. So we just see it relays back to that. Something's of a higher quality if it's more desirable. Yes.
Something's of a higher quality if it's more desirable. Not necessarily. Sometimes I desire.
Give me an example.
Sometimes I desire higher quality things, and sometimes I desire lower quality things. Sometimes I want to
give me an example of something having a higher quality that is less desirable.
But it depends. Like I'm saying, I don't want to eat fine dining every night, even though I think that fine dining is higher quality than McDonald's.
Yeah, why do you, on a night in which you desire to eat McDonald's over fine dining, why would the fine dining be of a higher quality?
Because I still think it's like made with better ingredients. It probably still.
Wait, why are the ingredients better?
Fresher. I don't know.
But why does how fresh the ingredients matter?
I mean, that's a subjective thing that goes into what I consider my scale of quality.
So it just all relates back to how I've been defining perfection this entire time, and you're just now finally getting it, right?
I'm trying to wrap my head. I'm not trying to like argue in bad faith. I'm trying to understand your argument. I do think sometimes I purposefully desire things that are less quality than other things. I would still say that I think that fine dining is higher quality than McDonald's, but I don't always desire the high quality.
In accordance with whom's standard of quality?
My standard of quality.
Your standard of quality. So,
yes.
So that's not true.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes I don't desire the thing that I consider the most high quality.
You can't desire something that you desire. You can't desire something that you don't desire. That's impossible. Do you under? Can we make that? Can we? You listen.
I
listen
can
to the
desire
sentence.
something I don't consider the most perfect.
No. Follow me here. You can't desire something you don't desire.
I agree with that.
Fair?
Yes, but I don't always desire high quality or perfection.
Yeah, so it all has to do with your desires. And if perfection is the highest level of desirability to God, right? Then God can't desire something that is imperfect. Because this is God desiring something he doesn't desire definitionally.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we're just going in circles. You're saying that your definition of perfection is anything you desire at that moment. So what you're saying is that on the days that I want McDonald's, on that day, McDonald's is perfect to me in that moment, even if I might still think it's lower quality than fine dining.
Bro, you're just not getting it, man. I'm sorry, Ryan.
I'm trying to... Okay.
You're trying, I could tell, but I don't think we're going anywhere.
Well, I want to address one other thing and then I'll go. So you say that like if something's already perfect, you couldn't desire another state of perfection. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't say that. You can. I mean, you could go from one state of perfection to another state of perfection, right? But it'd be random. Just by nature, by virtue, it would be random. Right? Why do I say this? Well, imagine you come up to me and I offer you $200 bills that are identical in the relevant sense. Which $100 bill are you going to choose?
See, but that's an example where it's two perfect things that are identical. I would say like...
I said identical in the relevant senses.
What do you mean by relevant senses?
Yeah, so like they're just going to be identical in the relevant sense in what would be necessary to make a choice. Well, in that way, you wouldn't be able to make a choice, it'd just be random. And this would also be said about the states of reality before and after the moment of creation. Before it's going to be perfect, after it's going to be perfect. You're going from a 10 to a 10, a $100 bill to a $100 bill. right? And there just can't exist any reason for an actor to make a choice, because if there did exist reason, right, well, then there'd exist preference. You can't have reason without preference. You can't have reason without desire, right? Like saying that you reason to do something that you don't have reason for is just like saying you can't desire something that you don't desire to do. They're both contradictions. But if we were to assume there is reason, this means we are to assume that there's preference or desire. And if there exists preference or desire, well, then this state is of a higher level of desirability because the actor chose to act.
So let's say, for example, I have like 2 favorite foods and I like each of these foods absolutely identically, and they're like identical in the relevant sense. But then some days I prefer one or some days I prefer the other.
Yeah, and that preference is just going to be random, right?
I don't think it is going to be random. Like, for example,
well, then one would be better than the other, right?
If I just had my favorite food yesterday, I'm probably not going to want to have it again.
Yeah, so therefore the other would be better than it, right?
So you're saying that even though overall they're identical on that day, it would become better is basically
answer. Genuinely answer. Yeah, you have 2 foods that you really like and they're both similar, right? They're both identical in the relevant senses. If you have a preference for one over the other, it just means that one is better. It's just entailed by the preference, right? But as we know, nothing is better or more preferable than perfection, right? Well, this means that wouldn't be the case if the moment prior to and the moment after creation we're both perfect.
I'm saying you could have 2 things that are equally perfect, but your preference...
No, you can't. Thank you for the hands up. Because that means that they're not perfect because you desire one over the other.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, this is all just still...
There's nothing more desirable than perfection, and if you desire something more than perfection, aka desiring one over the other, then it's not perfect.
I think the issue is I'm thinking of perfect on more of like an objective... Well, I mean...
I asked you what you took perfection to be, and then I asked you a bunch of questions, and it did reduce down to your subjective preferences.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think I do believe that I can separate my belief of something being perfect and my belief of what I desire on any given day. I think that I can think that I am preferring something less perfect on a certain day.
How?
I gave the example. Like I can think that like I can hold the opinion that fine dining is better than McDonald's every single day, but I can still prefer McDonald's on certain days.
So you're desiring something that you desire, right? You're saying that McDonald's is more desirable than fine dining, right?
Yeah, but I think it's less perfect.
So I have a question. How could the statement, nothing's more desirable than perfection, right, and McDonald's, in which is less perfect than fine dining, be more desirable than it?
I don't agree with the statement, there's nothing less desirable than perfection. That's the thing that
then it's not perfect. But dude, why are you calling fine dining more perfect than McDonald's?
Because I think it's of a higher quality.
And yeah, why is it of a higher quality? Why does quality matter?
Because we both agree that...
No, tell me, why does quality matter? Why are you saying it is perfect because it's of a higher quality? Why are you so associating perfection with higher quality food?
Yeah, it's subjective. So, but no, I think
would you say that lower quality food has more flaws?
Lower quality food has more flaws. Yeah, probably.
Okay. So the more perfect you get, the less flaws you have? So then perfection means flawlessness? And flawlessness is undesirable traits? And if something doesn't have any undesirable traits, there's nothing more desirable than it. And if there's something more desirable than perfect fine dining...
But I think you can desire flaws. I think you can desire flaws.
Okay, so then a flaw is something that's undesirable. So you're saying that you desire something that you don't desire. That's a contradiction. You can't do that. It's logically impossible. This is like you saying that squared circles exist, Ryan.
So I think, so we both agreed that perfection is subjective and that desire is subjective. But I think you are equating that desire and perfection are like the same thing. And I think that they're two separate things.
I think that you're kind of shifting the goalposts right now. Can you desire something that you don't desire?
No.
So that you can't desire flaws if a flaw is defined as an undesirable trait, yes?
A flaw is an undesirable trait. I know we just talked through this logic tree.
Dude.
Like people talk about how like your flaws make you beautiful or whatever, you know.
You can't desire something you don't desire. A flaw is defined as something that's undesirable. If someone says your flaws make you beautiful, then it's not a fucking flaw. Right? They're using someone else's standard of what a flaw is.
So if you desire a flaw, then it's not actually a flaw, and it's impossible to desire flaws. I just don't.
Yes, it is impossible to desire something that you don't desire. A flaw is defined as something you don't desire.
I think there's a scale of quality and there's a scale of desire, and I can desire things. I think these are two separate scales.
Sir,
No,
can
they're
you
not.
desire something you don't desire?
Can you guys hear my loud ass air conditioner, or is it good?
You can hear it. I'm getting off after this, bro.
Okay.
Go for it, Tishy.
Is it loud though?
No.
Okay, good. So yeah, Ryan, I don't. You've been up here for a while. I like. What exactly are you not like understanding here?
I'm happy to hop down. I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time. My perspective is there is you can have a scale of quality and then a scale of preferences, and that you can have a preference for something that is on a lower scale of what you would consider perfect.
I mean, okay, so Ryan, literally all Dean is saying, right, is that yes, within society, we have things that we deem as flaws, right? But that's not necessarily what he's talking about. What he's talking about is purely subjective. Do you understand that?
Yeah, well, I
So
think
things that are seen as flaws are not actually flaws. They will only be flaws if it is undesirable to the person who say they are flaws.
Yeah, because and on top of that, the term actual flaw, that's complete gibberish. That's complete gibberish. Something like objective flaws, it's
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there's no real such thing as a flaw. A flaw is simply an undesirable trait. There's no objective standard for what a flaw is. You understand?
yes.
Right. So, if we understand that there's no objective standard for what a flaw is, right? For you to say that you can prefer something that is flawed would, all things considered, mean that that thing to you is not flawed. Do you understand?
I think
Because you desire it. And if you desire it by virtue, it cannot be a flaw.
I don't know. What I just hear like Christian mental gymnastics. I love you, Ryan. Think you're a great dude. Like I told you last time we talked. I think you got a lot going on, but I think that these are just mental gymnastics because of your confirmation bias for the Christian God existing.
I don't even believe in the Bible. I literally the reason I'm talking about this, I actually want to be able to use this perfection argument to argue against Christianity. Why are you laughing at me? No, I do arguments against Christianity. I'm trying to understand this argument so that I can... What's so funny? What?
Because Dean is only looking for people who like genuinely hold these views. He just spent all this time on you, and you don't even hold to the view that he was debating.
Oh, I was
Just wasted his time, Ryan. Why did you do that?
I thought we were having a conversation to like try to understand the ideas. I was disagreeing with his problem of perfection. I mean, if he really didn't want to talk to me because I had to have that.
It's because he thought you were Christian, Ryan.
I am Christian. I have a very weird version of Christianity.
So then why did you?
I wanted to talk through the problem of perfection.
Wait. You're a Christian, but you don't think the Bible is true?
Yeah, what does that mean? That's a contradiction.
Yeah, I'm like
He's a fucking thinker, dude.
a deist, I think might be the word. Like I basically have just
You're
chosen-
not Christian.
Deism and Christianity are not compatible.
You're not Christian, Ryan.
Basically, my belief is that I think the Christian God probably doesn't exist, but I just choose to believe in him anyway because it makes me feel good. Like that's my.
Okay, so it's just a coping mechanism, and you're actually agnostic.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Ryan!
What's so funny about that? I mean, I am like, but I was a Christian when I was younger, and then I became
Ryan,
like.
you're
more of an
so
atheist.
lucky. You're so lucky. We're fans of you. You're so fucking lucky, dude. Because
Why?
we would have roasted
problem here?
Bro, we would have roasted your. You would have been cooked. Oh my
Well,
god!
I
you're so
haven't like
fucking-
contradicted myself or anything.
You did. You did. Oh, I love it here.
No, Ryan, you're a good dude. You're
Yeah, we
a good
love
dude.
Ryan. We love Ryan.
You're a good dude. But
Okay. I'm sorry. If like you legitimately only wanted to argue against someone who like believes in the Bible, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
no, I appreciate you for the combo. I get the point of it. I get the point of the combo.
I'm trying to logically understand the problem of perfection because I want to like be able to actually use that argument, like if I'm arguing with people. But so that's why I was like trying to.
How about this? How about this? I'm gonna be quite honest. This was not a conversation for my public life. Not at all. Not in the slightest. I'm up here to talk to Christians. It's okay.
All right. My
You
bad.
know
Sorry.
that.
Sorry about
But do you have Discord?
that. Yeah, I don't really use it, but I could join your Discord.
Yeah, my join code is just Dean. Join my
Okay.
Discord, then tag me in like general chat. I'll add you as a friend and DM you. And I don't mind like running you through some of the shit offline.
Right, like that would be
My
a
bad.
perfect state of affairs.
That would be a perfect state of affairs. Wait, hey Ryan, what are you about to say? That'd be perfect.
That would be perfect based on
Because
my
we do not
personal
desire this conversation within this context.
preference.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go into my stream. I need to fucking go get food. I only had we did like about 3 hours of live today. I'm so fucking mad about my main account getting banned. We were live for 30 minutes and we were able to get up to what did we get up to? 2.5 thousand viewers in 30 minutes. Then the live got taken down and I got a week ban. And chat, I am going out to LA on the 17th to debate the Whatever podcast and spend time with good old Parky Poo, film some content and have a bunch of fun. And the entirety of the time, we won't have access to the main account. I mean, absolutely fucking wrecked. Complete disaster, man. Complete disaster.
I think you guys will do really good on the Whatever podcast. They're not like very smart on there, I don't think.
We'll destroy
They are
them.
not.
We'll destroy them. We'll destroy. Honestly, here's my position. I think that Christianity is indefensible, ultimately speaking. I think that there's a lot of smart people that hold to Christianity being true. Good example of such is Theus Brooks. Brooks is an incredibly intelligent guy. You should read some of his papers sometimes. That dude knows what the fuck is good. He's an incredibly intelligent dude. But Christianity is ultimately indefensible. So, you know what I mean?
And I totally agree with the problem of evil. Like whenever you make those arguments, I'm 100% on board. I was just really wanting to understand the problem of perfection, and I probably should have done that privately instead of on live, and I apologize for that.
You're good, man. Well, yeah, have a good rest of your day, Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and end my stream here.
All right, sounds good.
Bye, Ryan. I love you.
Bye, Ryan.
You too.
All right, Tashika. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. Thank you for coming up.
All right, can we get some me want bites in the chat, please? Thank you. Bye. Biting.
I don't know what that meant. I'm gonna go to the end for the night, y'all. Go raid Parker, spam Dean raid. I'm so sad that my main got banned. And then we just ended up streaming on the second account. What a sad day. What a sad, sad, sad day. Love y'all. Adios.
Very nice. Later when Nana come back, I will let her know, okay? And my dear Jules, no worry. How about this one, my friend? This one is our Amazonite. Long time no show. It's our 641.